Every morning, millions of people wake up and reach for their phones before their coffee. They check bank balances, scroll through shopping apps, and feel that familiar rush when a payment notification appears. What they don't realize is that they're feeding an addiction more powerful than any substance known to humanity. Money has become the world's most sophisticated drug, and unlike cocaine or heroin, this addiction is not only legal but celebrated as success. The human brain contains a reward system that evolved over millions of years to keep us alive. Deep in the middle of our cranium, circuits link scattered regions involved in memory, movement, pleasure, and motivation. When our ancestors found food or secured shelter, neurons released dopamine, creating satisfaction and encouraging the behaviors that ensured survival. But modern civilization has hijacked this ancient system, turning the pursuit of money into a neurological trap more addictive than any chemical compound. Scientists using brain imaging technology have discovered something remarkable about monetary rewards. When people earn money, their brains release dopamine in the same regions activated by cocaine, gambling, and other addictive substances. The ventral striatum, responsible for processing reward and reinforcement, lights up like a Christmas tree during financial transactions. What makes this particularly dangerous is that money triggers stronger dopamine responses in men than almost any other stimulus, creating a biological foundation for compulsive financial behavior. The addiction mechanism operates through a feedback loop that strengthens with repetition. Every successful transaction, every salary increase, every investment gain floods the brain with feel-good chemicals that reinforce the behavior. The brain begins to associate monetary gain with survival itself, reprogramming ancient circuits to crave financial stimulation. Unlike natural rewards that have built-in satisfaction points, money offers no ceiling, no moment when the brain signals that enough is enough. Modern payment systems have weaponized this neurological vulnerability with surgical precision. Credit cards eliminate the physical pain of parting with cash, allowing the reward circuits to fire without the natural break of loss aversion. When researchers scanned brains during credit card purchases, they discovered that the striatum activated more intensely than during cash transactions. The separation of purchase from payment puts costs out of mind, creating a dangerous disconnect between spending decisions and their consequences. Digital payments have accelerated this process even further. The dopamine hit from swiping a card or tapping a phone creates an immediate reward cycle that bypasses rational decision-making. Each transaction becomes easier than the last, with saved payment information eliminating friction and reducing purchase decisions to simple impulses. The brain learns to associate the physical act of buying with pleasure, independent of the value or necessity of what's being purchased. Social media platforms have evolved into dopamine delivery systems disguised as entertainment. Applications that once served as digital diaries have transformed into sophisticated shopping environments, designed to trigger compulsive spending behaviors. Users spend an average of nearly an hour per day on platforms like TikTok, where algorithms feed them personalized advertisements every few seconds. The combination of entertainment and commerce creates a hypnotic state where spending decisions happen before conscious thought can intervene. Generation Z consumers demonstrate the most severe symptoms of this technological addiction. They are 34% more likely to make purchases based on influencer recommendations than traditional advertising, and 50% more likely than celebrity endorsements. 1 in 2 users admits to spending at least $100 on impulse purchases influenced by social media content in the past year alone. These aren't isolated incidents, but symptoms of a generation raised in an environment where monetary transactions have been gamified and optimized for addiction. The parallels to gambling addiction are impossible to ignore. Pathological gamblers show increased dopamine release not just when winning, but also when losing money. The brain interprets losses as near misses, triggering the reward system and encouraging continued play. This counterintuitive response explains why people chase losses rather than walking away from bad financial decisions. The same mechanism operates in everyday spending, where failed purchases or financial setbacks trigger the urge to spend more rather than less. Unlike substance addictions that require external chemicals, money addiction exploits the brain's natural reward pathways. There's no foreign substance to metabolize, no physical withdrawal symptoms to endure. The addiction lives entirely within the neural networks that evolved to motivate survival behaviors. This makes monetary addiction particularly insidious because it masquerades as normal economic activity while systematically rewiring the brain's decision-making processes. The sophistication of modern financial manipulation extends far beyond simple advertising. Algorithms analyze spending patterns, predict purchase behavior, and deliver precisely timed offers designed to exploit moments of weakness. Payment platforms use variable reward schedules similar to slot machines, where unexpected bonuses and cashback rewards create unpredictable dopamine spikes that strengthen addictive patterns. What makes this addiction truly unprecedented is its integration into every aspect of modern life. Unlike drugs or gambling, which remain somewhat marginalized activities, monetary transactions are unavoidable necessities disguised as choices. Every purchase decision becomes a potential trigger, every financial interaction an opportunity for the addiction to strengthen its grip on neural pathways. The consequences extend far beyond individual bank accounts. Entire economic systems now depend on populations of financially addicted consumers making irrational spending decisions. The stability of markets relies on people borrowing against their futures, accumulating debt, and prioritizing immediate gratification over long-term security. What appears to be economic growth is often just the collective symptoms of a species-wide addiction to monetary stimulation. Human beings have created the perfect drug, one that requires no production, leaves no physical evidence, and generates profits from the very act of consumption. The most disturbing aspect of monetary addiction is how it corrupts the brain's ability to distinguish between genuine needs and manufactured desires. Traditional addictions involve substances that flood reward circuits with artificial chemicals, but money addiction operates through the brain's own natural systems. This makes it nearly impossible to detect until the damage is already done. The neural pathways connecting the reward circuit to the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for impulse control and rational decision-making, begin to weaken with repeated exposure to financial stimulation. As these connections deteriorate, people lose the ability to pause before making purchasing decisions. The prefrontal cortex, which normally helps evaluate consequences and resist immediate temptations, becomes less responsive to monetary triggers. This neurological change explains why financially addicted individuals continue destructive spending patterns despite mounting debt, relationship problems, and obvious financial consequences. Their brains have been rewired to prioritize immediate monetary rewards over long-term stability. The tolerance mechanism that develops mirrors classic substance addiction patterns. Initially, small purchases or minor financial gains produce satisfying dopamine releases. But as the brain adapts to constant stimulation, larger amounts become necessary to achieve the same neurological response. A person who once felt satisfied earning a modest salary begins chasing higher incomes, bigger bonuses, and more expensive purchases. The goalposts keep moving because the brain requires increasingly intense monetary stimulation to trigger the same reward response. This escalation creates a vicious cycle where financial success breeds financial desperation. High earners often display the most severe symptoms of money addiction. Not despite their wealth, but because of it, their brains have become so accustomed to large monetary rewards that normal purchases feel insignificant. They chase increasingly risky investments, accumulate unnecessary luxury goods, and make impulsive financial decisions that would seem irrational to outside observers. The withdrawal symptoms from monetary addiction manifest differently than chemical dependencies, but are equally destructive. When access to spending or earning opportunities is restricted, addicted individuals experience anxiety, irritability, and obsessive thoughts about financial transactions. They may spend hours researching investments, browsing shopping websites, or calculating potential earnings from various schemes. The brain interprets financial restriction as a survival threat, triggering stress responses that can only be relieved through monetary activity. corporate psychology departments have mapped these addiction patterns with scientific precision. They understand exactly which neural buttons to press and when to press them. Loyalty programs exploit the brain's pattern recognition systems, creating artificial scarcity that triggers hoarding behaviors. Limited time offers activate fear responses that bypass rational evaluation. Subscription models provide steady dopamine drips that keep reward circuits engaged without the dramatic peaks and valleys of one-time purchases. The most sophisticated manipulation involves what researchers call variable ratio reinforcement schedules. Just as casino slot machines pay out unpredictably to maximize addiction potential, modern financial products deliver rewards at irregular intervals. Investment apps send notifications about portfolio gains at random times. Shopping platforms offer surprise discounts and flash sales. Credit card companies provide unexpected cashback bonuses. These unpredictable rewards create stronger addictive patterns than consistent, predictable payments. Children growing up in this environment show signs of monetary addiction before they even understand what money represents. They learn to associate digital transactions with pleasure through games that simulate purchasing decisions. Educational apps disguise spending mechanics as learning tools, teaching young brains to crave the dopamine rush of virtual transactions. By adolescence, many have already developed neural pathways that prioritize financial stimulation over other forms of satisfaction. The normalization of debt culture represents perhaps the most sinister aspect of systemic financial addiction. Society has reframed borrowing from future earnings as responsible financial planning rather than recognizing it as feeding an addiction. Mortgage payments, student loans, and credit card debt are celebrated as investments in personal growth rather than acknowledged as contracts that trade future freedom for immediate gratification. The brain you were born with is not the brain you'll die with. Every swipe, every tap, every transaction rewires neural pathways that took millions of years to evolve. Understanding this addiction is the first step toward breaking free from systems designed to exploit your most fundamental survival instincts. The question is not whether you're addicted to money, it's whether you'll recognize the addiction before it consumes everything you were meant to become. If this opened your eyes to how addiction has evolved, hit subscribe. We didn't just invent money, we taught our brains to crave it.